All right, it's 11. Let's get started. Um, Hello, everyone. My name is Carla, and welcome to today's webcast on inventory. A bit of housekeeping before we begin. You will have the opportunity to submit questions by typing them into the question pane anytime during the presentation. We will address them at the end. We will also be recording this webcast and we'll send it to all attendees after the presentation. And now I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Diane Mueller. Over the past 25 years, Diane has touched many lives as a leading authority for all things related to small business and bookkeeping. She is a co-founder of the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers of Canada and is the owner and operator of bookkeeping firm Soma Small Business Solutions. Diane is also a SAGE certified trainer and has received countless awards throughout the years, including at this year's upcoming SAGE Circle of Excellence Awards. Diane will receive the inaugural Alan Salmon Lifetime Achievement Award for her tremendous contributions to the SAGE community. And now I'd like to pass it on to Diane. Diane, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Carla. That was quite the introduction, and I am so pumped for the award ceremony coming up in Vancouver, June the 26th, to honor Alan and all of the other nominees for all of the awards that SAGE is going to be giving out that night. So thank you so much. And to everyone this morning on the webinar, thank you for coming. This is fantastic. I absolutely love doing these kinds of webinars to pass knowledge on to those and hopefully give you some tips and tricks when you're dealing with the Sage 50 Cloud inventory. So yes, my name is Diane Mueller, and I get to be your tour guide for today's session on getting started right with Sage 50 Cloud inventory module. I'm going to be working inside Sage 50 Cloud Premium 2019.3, the very latest version of the software for this webinar. And I've designed the webinar in two parts. So be sure to register for part 2, which will be at the same time next week to be able to get the full story. So the inventory module is an important tool in helping you manage your business flow of items and products and their associated costs. It provides an analysis of the profitability of items that you sell. And Sage 50 Cloud Inventory Module uses the perpetual inventory system to accomplish that. If you choose to not track your inventory in the inventory module, then periodic or manual adjustments would be made through the general journal entry module. So there are actually two types of items that you could have in Sage 50 Cloud that a company might buy and then sell. One, of course, is inventory, or it sometimes is referred to as stock. And there's also your service items. Service items are items such as consulting fees or subscriptions, and they're usually related to labor. Setting up both your service items and the inventory items will save you a ton of time when you're doing your invoicing out to your customers, and it will also provide you important analytical sales and profit reports. But today, what we're going to do is to concentrate on inventory or stock that your company buys and sells. By using the inventory module, we will be able to track the direct cost of goods sold. When you buy products from your suppliers, it is posted to an asset account on your balance sheet because you, as the company, now own that inventory. It is not until it is sold or used in building another product that it would then get moved out of the asset account. So when you sell an item, Sage 50 Cloud removes the cost that you originally paid for the item from the asset inventory account and posts it to a cost in your income statement in the cost of goods sold account section. Therefore, we must make sure we have both a inventory asset account and a cost of goods sold account set up in our chart of accounts and linked to those items in the item screen of each inventory item in order for Sage 50 to move the flow of the inventory items from inventory into the cost of goods sold. So what we're going to be covering today, I'm just going to switch the slide here, and hopefully everyone can now see the next slide. What we will be covering in today's session, we're going to look at the different costing methods that are available, the profit methods, pricing of inventory, locations and categories that you might want to set up, the settings of the inventory module, adding items, how to build a kit, and of course, what it looks like to buy and sell inventory through the Sage 50 Cloud module. Now, the first thing that we want to talk about is the costing methods. And in Sage 50 Cloud, there are 3 costing methods. We can choose between those 3 different costing methods depending on the version of Sage 50 Cloud that you are using. So average cost is a method of valuing the inventory by dividing the number of items in stock by the total value of those items. Average cost is the option you have if you are using Sage 50 Cloud Pro version. So for example, if I purchase 10 widgets in stock and the total value of my stock is $11, the average cost is $1.10 each, just dividing the amount that I have by the dollar value. Another example would be 3 widgets purchased on January the 1st at $5 each, and then 4 additional widgets purchased on January 6th at $6 each. That would take the total cost on January the 6th to be $39. If I take $39 and divide that by 7, that equals an average cost of $5.57. If I then sold 3 of those widgets, the cost recorded to the cost of goods sold account would be $5.57 each. Close, but not exactly accurate as to what I purchased the first 3 widgets for. Because the first 3 of the actual costs were only $5 each. But that's the average costing method, and that's what's available in the Pro version of the software. In Sage 50 Premium, I can move up and choose between using average cost or first in, first out, FIFO. It's a costing method of valuing the cost by the oldest item in your inventory that is being sold first. So it's based on the purchase date of the items. Sage 50 Cloud creates a cost layer. When the item is sold, the first items added to inventory are the first items that are sold, and then their actual costs are removed from the inventory asset account and posted to the cost of goods sold. This method returns a very accurate cost of goods sold and is used for things like perishable goods or items that might expire. Serialized inventory, the next one, is only available in the Quantum version of Sage 50 Cloud. It is a costing method that tracks individual items, and you can have either add serial numbers from a list, an outside list that you might be provided from a supplier, or you can have Sage 50 create a serial number for you. Serialized inventory method is only available in Sage 50 Quantum, an important thing to remember. And then we'll move on to the different ways that we are able to evaluate our profit in Sage 50 Cloud. Profit evaluation is important, and you'll want to be sure to choose the correct one for your type of business or industry. If you're not sure which one is correct, you probably should consult with the business owner or perhaps even the accountant. But basically, markup evaluates the profit on an item as a percentage of the item's original cost. And margin evaluates the profit of an item as a percentage of its sell price. So one is coming from the cost perspective and the other is coming from a sell perspective to either give you markup or margin. And that's important when you're running your reports. The next thing I want to talk about is pricing and price lists. If you sell to customers in foreign currency, for example, you will need to decide how you will handle the pricing on your invoices. As you may already know, Sage 50 Cloud does handle foreign currency, allowing you to do business in other countries. But regarding inventory, you will want to determine if you want to have a different price calculated every time you create an invoice for your foreign customers by telling Sage 50 Cloud to base the price on an exchange rate that you populate in the invoice. Or would you rather use a fixed foreign currency price list for that item? This way, your customers would know the price and it would not differ by the exchange rate fluctuation, which is sometimes a more preferred way of doing it. But in Sage 50 Cloud, you have that option. But remember, Sage 50 Cloud Pro is limited to 2 currencies only. And Premium and above, so Premium and Quantum, they are unlimited currencies, as many different currencies as we have in the world. Now, you can also create multiple price lists for the same item or product. And you can assign a certain price list or even a price level to your customer, which eliminates any data entry problems when being afraid that your customer might get charged the wrong price. You'll be able to actually hard code it right to the customer. Now, Sage 50 Cloud Pro, you get 3 price lists only. In the Premium, however, you can create up to 100 different price lists, and in Quantum, up to 1,000 different price lists. Price lists can also be exported, edited, and changed, and then imported back into Sage 50 Cloud so that it's much easier in an Excel format to actually change all your prices, perhaps do what-if scenarios, and then once they're set in stone, import it back in to Sage 50. It's a really handy feature for dealing with price lists. And now we'll move on to locations and categories. So locations allow you to track inventory levels in multiple storage facilities that you might have, multiple warehouses or fulfillment centers. Once locations are enabled in the company file, they cannot be turned off. So that's an important thing for you to make note of. Inventory reports can be run by location so that you will know what is your inventory level at the various different locations. You can modify any of the reports to show locations by just hitting the Modify the Report and then clicking the Select Location button to see your analysis by location. Categories are used to group your inventory items into related groups, making it easier to read reports, find, and even filter your items. When setting up a new category, you're able to assign items to that category at the setup stage, or later on if you're adding a new inventory item. If an item is not assigned to a category, it will automatically default to the uncategorized inventory category. Inventory reports can be filtered to show inventory or service items by category. Now, locations and categories are only available in Sage Premium or Quantum. So I think now we have an understanding of our options for the 3 different versions of the software and how those options will work. Let's now go back into the software and take a look again. Remember, I am using Sage Premium 2019.3. But just before we do that, I have a poll question for you. Carla, can I ask you to please run the poll for us?
Absolutely, it should be up.
And we'll just give you about 60 seconds here to see if you can answer my question. Which of the following accounts are required when setting up an inventory item? Would the correct answer be an asset account and a revenue account? Or would it be B, asset and cost of goods sold accounts? Or C, revenue and cost of goods sold accounts? Have we got just about 100% participation yet, Carla?
We've got about 40%.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to give you the right answer. So if you're not quite sure, take a guess.
Now?
Okay, so the correct answer is a B, an asset and a cost of goods sold account. Those accounts are important for the flow of the inventory. When you buy the items, it will place them into an asset account. When you sell the items, and only when you sell the items, is the cost of goods sold posted at that time. And that gives us a matching principle that works really well because we don't want costs associated when we haven't, in the correct month, when the item has not been sold yet. Okay, good job, everyone. So now I'm going to actually bring up Sage 50 Cloud, and hopefully everyone can see that on my screen. Carla, can I just get you to confirm for me that, yes, that's being...
Yes, absolutely. We can see it.
Wonderful, thank you. So over on the left-hand side, we see the navigation pane, and I'm just moving up and down on the navigation pane right now, and I've highlighted inventory and services. At the very bottom of that screen, under related tasks, you'll see settings. So I'm going to click on settings, and that's going to take me in to the setup of the inventory and services. And we've got a few different options to go through here, but we can do it fairly quickly because I've actually gone in and we've actually gone through a lot of this and explained how they would work. The very first one is showing us, are we choosing average cost or first in, first out? So that means I'm currently in the premium or higher version of the software. My profit evaluation method is also here in the options tab. And I'm able to say which way I would like to sort my inventory and service items when I'm inside my sales or purchase window to be able to find them. And you can choose a number or description. And then we have information about our foreign prices. Now again, we can use to calculate using the exchange rate for that particular day, and that would require you to populate the exchange rate in the sales invoice or purchase invoice, and or taken from the foreign price list in the inventory and service record. And this is, I think, by far the most popular one, because most people do not want the fluctuation of knowing, how much the product is going to cost them each time they buy it. The other option that you see on this screen is allow inventory levels to go below zero. It is actually not recommended by Sage that you turn this on because it does affect the cost of goods sold accounts significantly. But sometimes in the real world out there, we do need to create an invoice for a customer before perhaps we've actually entered in the purchase invoice for those items. So it's showing us that we don't have any of those to sell, but we know that we've received them. We just haven't actually put them into our purchase journal yet, and we need to quickly enter an invoice to a customer. So by clicking on allow inventory levels to go below zero, we are allowed to put onto a sales invoice inventory items that we actually don't have in stock. But again, not something that you turn on and do lightly because it will affect your cost of goods sold account. In part 2 next week, with the new features that we're going to be going over, I think that you will find that there is a lot less need for you to click on allow inventory levels to go below zero. So stay tuned for some exciting things there. And then our next tab is our pricing list. And as you can see, here are the 3 that are default that automatically get set up when you install Sage 50 Cloud. And these are the only 3 you would have if you're using the Pro version of the software. But because I'm in the premium version, I'm going to go ahead and set up an employee price list. And I can make my price list inactive or active by just toggle switching back and forth and clicking on the status. Now, because I've created an employee price list, I want to update my price list. And you can see there is a big box down here that says update price list. So I will go ahead and click there. It will bring up all of my items that are in my inventory, both my inventory items, my service items, and also activities if you're using the time and billing feature in Sage 50 Cloud. I can choose to eliminate by just choosing my inventory items if that's all that I'm doing for this particular price list. I'm just going to leave it as all items. And now I'm able to set my new employee price list. So I'm choosing the employee price list by increasing or decreasing any other price list, but in this case, it would make sense for my regular price list. And now I'll be able to choose by an amount or by a percentage. And in this case, the employees will get a 10% discount. I can even click on to round my prices to the nearest penny, nearest dollar. As you can see, you've got lots of options in the drop down. And I'll able to choose the currency. And because I have multi-currency set up in this particular data file, I could set my employee price list in Europe different than my employee price list in Canadian dollars, for example. Or choose all currencies. And I'll just click on the little blue check mark at the top of this column here beside items, because I'm going to choose for all of my items. But I could have cherry picked it by just choosing the ones that I want on this particular price list. And now I'm able to calculate, or have Sage 50 calculate my new prices. Very nice, quick and easy. Save my prices, and now I have new prices for my new price list employees. Really simple and easy. The other thing I want to make you aware about price lists, is that you can export your price list out of Sage 50 Cloud here, export records, and here I'd be able to choose my price lists, export it out of Sage 50, work on it in Excel, and then be able to import them back in again, which really does make handling your inventory price increases or decreases fast and easy. Okay, so let's now move down into, so we were on price lists, now move into locations. And here is where you turn on, and you can see I've put a little check mark in use multiple locations for inventory items. And I can change the primary location name to maybe main warehouse. And I'm going to add another warehouse, and let's call it North Warehouse. I'll pass on a little tip that I've used this location for really successfully in the past, is for drop shipments. If you ship directly from your manufacturer or your supplier to your customer, then setting up a drop shipment location to have your inventory come in and out of, but not have it physically come to you, is really helpful. So you can just put a description here that this might be our North Road location. It really makes it easy if you use fulfillment centers. Or another example might be that you have a warehouse in Washington or just across the border in the US, depending where you are in Canada, and you don't like to import your items. You're going to save your items in that warehouse so that you can ship them directly to your US customers. That's another great use for locations. And now we'll move into categories. And in categories, we can set up as many of them as makes sense to us. This happens to be a landscaping company, so I have set up some categories that I would like my inventory to be divided into irrigation category, landscaping category, and sundries category. And again, right from here, I'm able to assign items on my list so that they are in this category. So for example, you'll see on my screen right now, under the category irrigation, I only have one item, which is the irrigation system install. Items that are not in this category are over on the other side of the screen. And I can move them by highlighting them and moving them, or removing them by just highlighting and using these buttons that you see down the center. So when I click into sundries and I assign, what I do see here that I do have an uncategorized item here. So I'm going to categorize it by choosing it and then moving it over by clicking the select button. And now my 7 or 6-inch flower pot is in my sundry category. And I'm able to run some reports by category. And then we'll go down to names. And these are 5 customizable names that you can use for anything that is relevant in your particular business. You can see I've just put some examples here. And the really cool thing about these 5 customizable names is that they can actually be put onto reports and also onto invoices. So if it's important that one of these names do go onto the invoice, then you're able to do that. Okay, so we still have one left that I haven't used, but we've got 5 in total. And then the very last thing that we want to talk about for setting up the inventory is the linking of accounts. So in Sage 50 Cloud, we use linked accounts to update all the related accounts automatically when you make adjustments to your physical inventory. So for example, if you're able to record the additional cost of an item assembly for assembling a new item together from various items, like the processing that would happen in manufacturing, you would need to actually put additional costs to item assembly. So I have created this account on my chart of accounts in the expense category, and I've linked it here so that when I do build or manufacture an item, I will be able to put the additional labor costs into the item assembly cost area. And we also, from time to time, need to adjust our inventory levels for promotion, giveaways, or spoilage or damaged goods. They're unsaleable, so we want to remove them from our inventory so that our inventory is always accurate. And this will be tracked in account 5130, adjustments or write-offs. Again, these accounts must be pre-set up or created in your chart of accounts so that you can link it up here. And that's pretty much it for setting up your inventory correctly. And it's important to go through the settings first. The next thing we'll want to do is to add some inventory items and go through how we go about doing that. And you see here on the screen, because I'm on the inventory and service page, that I've gone ahead and added some that we're going to be using in our transactions this week and next week. But let's go through how I went about adding these. So over on the inventory and services task window, the top icon that you see is inventory and services. And there's a little down arrow right beside there. I'm going to click on the down arrow and choose to add an inventory and service item. You'll notice that I can also modify from the screen or view, but we're going to add one. And I'll just actually put this right in the middle of the screen, so hopefully you can see it. Now, the very first thing that's important to determine is whether you're adding an inventory item or a service. So the type here is the very first thing that you will do, because it determines how many linked accounts you must have. And you can see if I choose here the service item, the linked account window changes considerably. So we're going to put in some soil. We sell soil in 25-pound bags. So I want to set that up in the inventory item here. Now, in this actual field, there's lots of options. It is alphanumeric, so you can put in whatever you choose to. So I'm just going to put soil 25-pound bag. But if you had a numbering sequence for your inventory, then you can certainly do that. The description is going to be premium topsoil and dash 25-pound bag. And that's what's going to actually show on my invoice out to my customer. Here we can see the categories, and this is going into landscaping. And then the very first tab in the line of tabs that we need to complete is the quantity tab. Now I'm able to show my quantity in any different unit of measure that I want. So all kinds of things could be used here in the unit tab, but this is where it will show up. But to change it, I need to go into the unit tab. So for example, if I wanted this to actually say that it's not each, it's a bag, then I could change this to read bag. And then it's more descriptive of what the 25-pound bag is. And then you can see we get the option here to measure it in stocking unit of measure, selling unit of measure, and buying unit of measure. Now this is really quite flexible. So for example, if we were stocking cans of pop and the stocked pop, we stocked the pop in 6-can packs, but we sold them by the can, we would set the stocking unit of measure, so the stocking unit of measure to a 6-pack. Uncheck the same as stocking measure. And in here, we would put that you enter 6 cans per 6-pack. And that's going to help us a lot on our reports to know exactly how many we have in our selling measurement, because that would be much larger than in our stocking measurement if we're stocking them by having 6 cans in a pack. Also, we could change that by buying unit. Perhaps maybe we buy it by the pallet, and on the pallet is 24 cases of pop. Again, important when we run our reports so that we could see how many pallets of pop we had left. So lots of flexibility here around stocking unit of measure, selling unit of measure, and buying unit of measure. When I run my reports, I'm able to choose how I want to see the report. Okay, so now we'll move over. Oh, if I go back to quantities, I'll just show you here that it now shows it as a bag. For location, I can say that I actually stock this soil in all locations, or perhaps if it's an item that I only stock in my main location, then I would want to set that up. So again, I'd be able to see where the soil is if it's only in one location. When we start to use the products in transactions, we'll also be changing, or Sage 50 will change what we have on pending purchase orders and on hand quantity wise. And you can see that information is here for purchase orders, for sales orders, and the quantity that we have on hand. We can also set a reorder quantity here so that if we want to be told that we need to reorder because we're getting low, then our minimum levels can be set up here and we'll be able to pull a report telling us what we need to reorder. And then our pricing. So here's where we will set our price up for our soil 25-pound bag. So the pricing is the sell price here. And be careful, you don't want to put the cost in here. It's price per selling unit. So in this case, we're going to sell it for $12 a bag. We can have a different preferred price for perhaps wholesale customers. We don't have web sales, so we could just remove it. And then our employee price would be a 10% discount. So theirs would be, what is that, $11.80 or something? No, $10.80. That we could set it for. So our pricing is in Canadian dollars right now, but remember we talked about if we're selling in, for example, US dollars, we would then change it and set up our US dollar pricing. And as you can see in this screen, we can have exchange rate for pricing method, or I can click in here and change it to fixed price. And once I've done that, then I can put my pricing in for US dollar. And I'm all set to go should I actually sell to a US customer. And after the pricing tab, we need to go into our link tab. What you'll notice on the top right-hand corner is required fields. There's a star beside it, or a little asterisk. And there's also an asterisk beside the asset account and the cost of goods sold account. Because these are, as we found out in our poll, accounts that are required for Sage 50 to handle the inventory and move the flow through the system. So here I'm going to set my asset account up for landscaping material. And when I click down here, you can see that I've actually got more than one inventory account in my asset section. I've got landscaping material, pots and containers, plants and seeds, and miscellaneous sundries. So you would want to make sure that you've got that set up appropriately. I think what you can see here is it does take a bit of planning out front as to how you want your inventory shown on your financial statements. So in this particular case, I'm choosing landscaping. And then what will my revenue account be? And you can see here that I can click in and pull up my revenue accounts for the particular categories that I've set up. And I've set up here a landscaping sales revenue account. Cost of goods sold, same thing. And the variance account can be where you want to set any variance that might happen when you buy and sell at different prices. Oftentimes, though, I would just put that right back to my cost of goods sold account, unless for some reason it's really important that you track any pricing variance. So there's my linking all done and set up. So now I can then go into my other tabs. The first one you see is build. I'm going to skip over that for just a moment and go over to my statistics tab. This is a great tab for you to look at because it really tells you what's going on. You will get your information on your inventory from your year to date compared to last year. The units that you sold, the amount that you sold, the cost of goods, and the date of the last sale that you've done. And of course, by location. The taxes tab is where you could set up any of your items if they are exempt from any of the taxes, whether that is HST, GST, or PST. And you can do that by just a toggle switch. And then whenever you put one of these items on an invoice, it knows not to charge the HST in this particular case. Importing duty, we're going to actually cover that next week when we go into a few more of the features. But essentially, this is where for this particular item, the soil 25-pound bag, if I was importing that from, say, United States, I could put my duty charge percent in here so that I get a more accurate landed cost for that item. Here's my additional information tabs, and here you could say where I could put my product account number in there, my substitute product account number. So if I can't get this item from my regular supplier, perhaps I buy it from a different supplier, but I need their product number. Where is it stored in our warehouse? The red bin information tells us it's in aisle K and in the red bin. So lots of ways that you can customize this. And then the detailed description. The detailed description allows you to enter a long description, or even, as you can see, attach a picture of your item along with the thumbnail. The long description is available on reports and on sales transaction forms, while the picture and the thumbnail are available for display in the inventory reports only. So if it's important that you have more than just premium topsoil 25-pound bag, but you need to perhaps put what is the soil made up of, what is the compound of the soil in here, and put that on an invoice, now you're able to do that with the long description. So I just want to touch on one more thing before we move on here, and that's if you're setting up your inventory from scratch. So you have never used the inventory module at all before. There will be an additional tab here that says History. And this is where you would record your inventory opening quantities and values. You would just click on the actual inventory item record from your inventory list back here, and then click on the History tab that you would see here and enter in the amount that you have in quantity and the amount that you have in total value for that particular item in order to start from scratch using the inventory module. Okay, so I'm going to close out of here. Do I still want to create this record? Absolutely, yes. And now you can see that I now have soil 25-pound premium topsoil. It's always easy on the front screen here to tell the difference between your service items, which have no quantity, of course, or total because they're a service that you sell, and the quantity and the total for your inventory items. So at this point, I'm just going to actually run over to the report center. That's the big blue icon in the middle of the screen. And here you can see all of the various inventory reports that we're going to be able to run. And right now we don't have much in here, but I can, of course, bring up my inventory and service list. I can also bring up a grouped inventory and service list. So let's just go in and modify that report. And my group type is going to be, and look, you can see here, the 5 customizable fields are in my grouping and also my locations or my categories. So let's choose the categories right now and say, okay. And here you can see my irrigation, my landscaping, and my sundry categories. So it makes it nice to be able to see them divided into the various categories. If I modify that report and actually choose locations, then I'd be able to see if I had any of these items that were in a different location only. And you can see I don't, I have everything under main. Okay, so let's now go in and actually buy and sell some inventory now that we've got everything set up properly and have gone through our settings. So we're going to go into purchases because of course we've got to purchase inventory to have something to sell. So I've gone on the navigation screen, the navigation pane here up to payables. And I'm going to go directly into purchase invoice. And I've just gone ahead before the session today to save some time, and I've set up a recurring one so that I could pull it up and not have to actually type any information in. So we're going to pick the landscaping depot purchase. And here's all the items that I'm choosing to actually put on my first purchase out to my supplier, and my supplier is Landscaping Depot. But I'm going to add an item, my soil that I just created, the 25-pound bag, And I can do that by clicking here on the little magnifying glass, which will bring up my list of all of my items. And then I can search by number, by category, or by description. Or I could have just started typing and it would bring up everything that started with an S, and then it actually boils it down for you, SOI. Now there's only the soil left, and I can choose the 25-pound bag. And in this particular case, I'm going to purchase 10 of them. Now, the very first time that I purchase an item, I do need to put in the purchase cost. After that, Sage 50 will remember what I paid the last time and automatically populate that for me. It's only if the price has gone up or down that I would need to change it. And then what are the appropriate taxes? And we just pay GST, so I can change that. Now, what I want to point out to you though is I could have saved myself this step, that when I set up the soil 50-pound bag or the soil 25-pound bag, I could have actually said that there was only GST on this particular item, like I did on the other items up here. And then that way I don't have to make the change when I'm in my purchase window here. Again, all about making it faster and more efficient to get the job done. And you can see it's automatically going to post all of these purchases to my inventory account. If I go up to the top and look at my report, or hold the control button down on my keyboard and the J button at the same time, so control J, that brings up my behind the scenes accounting. And here you can see that my landscaping materials is going to get $1,070 as a debit, increasing it. My plant and seeds is going to get $10 increase. 620 is going to my sundries, and my account HST, paid on purchases, is going to be debited $85. Accounts payable, because it set it up as a pay later here, is $1,785. I need to put my invoice number in from my supplier, and then I'm ready to go ahead and post. And it gives me my journal entry number. Now, if I go back to my inventory screen, you can see I have quantities available and I have dollar figures here to what I have to sell. I can also go back into my report center and inventory and services and now be able to see my quantities in a report that shows me my quantities, my minimum order that I want to have for the items, and if I have anything on purchase order or on sales order, and the total amount to order. And we're going to go over purchase orders and sales orders next week. Lots of information here. So now that I have some stuff to sell, I'm going to go back into my receivable module and go into my sales invoice. And I've just done the same thing again. I've created one in the recurring so that it's faster for us. And this is the South Pine Senior Center. What is it that what is it that they want to purchase? So I'm going to go down my list here and say they're going to buy 5 buckets, 5 of the 50-pound, 5 of a gift set. And this is interesting. This allows me to build a gift set as I need it. Quantities exceed the value stock on hand at Main. Would you like to build this gift set? And I'm going to go in and show you how it knows how to build this gift set in just a moment. But for now, I'm going to say yes. And when it does, it brings up the bill of material and it asks me why I'm billing it. So for this case, this is for this particular customer. So I'm going to say for invoice 106, and I can put a comment in there, as to who the customer was and how much do I want to actually build. And you can see it's filled in here. The quantity to build is 5 because they're ordering 5. So when I say post, it is going to create a journal entry that we can take a look at that shows me how it has removed each item from their separate categories as raw material and has built a garden gift set for me. And then I'm going to just fill in the rest of this. It's automatically filled everything out for me. I can put in the shipping date if it's different from today's date, but in this case, we're shipping it out to the customer at the same time. And what location am I shipping it from? And in this particular case, it's the Main location. Now, if I go to reports, I can see that my cost of goods sold, my 50/20 account, will be recorded as the amounts of the original purchase price of the items. And 50/20, $25, 50/30 is $207.50. It's going to be removing them or crediting the inventory accounts that relate to it, and then handling the taxes properly and putting it into the correct landscaping sales category. And of course, I'm charging the correct tax, but if it wasn't correct, I could go in and change that. But I'd want to go back and change it so it's more permanent in the file. So now I can go ahead and post that. It's just letting me know that I haven't printed it or emailed it, and that's correct. I don't want to do that for the demo today, and the journal entry number. So just before we finish up here, I've got about 3 minutes. I want to quickly take any questions that you might have. Carla, have you been watching the questions, and is there anyone that we haven't answered yet by going through the...
Yeah, so there's a question here from Josh McDermott. What is the price list limit for the accountant version of the software?
The accountant's version does not have any different limit than the premium or the quantum version. So the quantum version has 1,000 price lists, so your accountant's version would have that too.
Awesome. The next question comes from Wendy Joyner. Will freight and customs, for example?
Sorry, you cut out on me there.
Oh, sorry. Will Sage calculate a landed cost? Freight and customs.
Yes, absolutely. And stay tuned for next week. We're going to show you a little bit more about that one screen where you saw this morning where I could put in the percentage of the duty.
Perfect. And we have one more question from Kathy Badry, where she's asking, what is best practice for adding labor costs into the assembly of an item?
Yes, and there is a place for us to do that. If I just go back quickly into the inventory and services, you can see that here is my gift set that I just created on the fly or built on the fly. So here in the build tab, here is where I went in ahead of time and told Sage 50 what raw material items that you see in the item column here creates a gift set. And then the additional cost for creating that gift set, physically putting it together, wrapping it up in the basket with some pretty paper and things is $5. So that's where the additional cost goes. And then it is recorded in the linked account that you saw when we were in the settings of the inventory for adding item assembly costs. So that's going to add $5 to that item assembly cost so that we have the true cost in the cost of goods sold for this particular gift set. Okay.
Okay, great. That seems to be all the questions we have for now. If there were any questions we missed, please feel free to send an email to sancanada@sage.com. And with that, thank you, Diane. That was a really insightful presentation. And thank you to everyone for attending today's webcast. You will receive a follow-up email within a few days from now with a link to view today's session. And on behalf of Sage, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see all of you next week at any one of our upcoming webinars, including the next one on inventory. So thank you,
Yes.
everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you.